Is Moses Itauma the real deal, or is he stepping into deep water way too soon? This August 29th, Saturday, at the O2 Arena in London, the heavyweight division is going to get a definitive answer to that question. We're looking at a 21-year-old British prodigy stepping up against a 34-year-old hardened Croatian veteran. But this isn't just a high-profile test. The vacant IBF World Heavyweight Championship is on the line. The contrast between these two guys jumps right off the page. It's a pretty classic clash because you've got a raw, explosive, young guy colliding head-on with someone who's made a career out of dragging people into the trenches, into deep waters. So let's break down exactly how this fight might play out and why someone's career is going to get completely changed. If you're living on the moon, you might not be familiar with Itauma yet, but you might be after this fight. So he's 14-0 with 12 knockouts, and he's fighting out of Chatham, Kent. And he doesn't just win, he annihilates. So last year, he completely battered former world title challenger and kind of high-level gatekeeper Dillian Whyte in 119 seconds in Riyadh. People tried to brush it off, saying that Whyte was well past his prime. Yeah. But then Itauma then fought Jermaine Franklin in Manchester earlier this year. Franklin is the definition of durable, right? He's taken elite heavyweights the full 12 rounds. Moses dropped him for the first time in his career in the third, and then he finished him in the fifth with a brutal left uppercut and right hand. That proved his knockout power carries deep into a fight. Deepish. Then you look across the ring at Filip Hrgovic, okay? This guy's 34 years old, he's 6'6" with an 82-inch reach, and he holds a 20-1 record with 15 KOs. He won a bronze medal at the 2016 Olympics, and he's been hovering around the top of the division for a decade. Hrgovic's whole brand is based around his durability and toughness and heavy-handed forward pressure. He went to war with Zhilei, took massive amounts of punishment, and he still walked away with a win. So his only professional loss came against Daniel Dubois in 2024, and Dubois basically had to batter him with pure physical size and athleticism to get the stoppage in the 8th round. Since then, Hrgovic has bounced back by stopping Dave Allen in 3 rounds. For Hrgovic, this is it really. It's kind of a final desperate shot at a world title that's sort of slipped through his net for years. In a way, stylistically, this is maybe a nightmare for both guys, but for completely different reasons. So Moses Itauma is a southpaw, and he brings blistering hand speed and explosive power. He doesn't just throw one shot, he's brilliant at overwhelming your guard with rapid combinations. I mean, it's like early Tyson-esque. He uses in and out rhythm, body and head, landing his shots and pivoting away before you can even set your feet to counter. It's very impressive. Hrgovic, on the other hand, fights in that classic, more upright, Eastern European style. He wants to control the centre of the ring and back you up with a very, very stiff, almost robotic jab, and drop a thudding, straight right hand on you as you move back. More importantly, he knows the kind of dark arts of the heavyweight game. He's going to clinch, for sure. He's going to lean that massive 6'6" frame on the slightly smaller 21-year-old and to try and drain Itauma's gas tank. And that brings us to the big unknowns, okay? So first off, Itauma's never been past the 5th round as a professional. We literally have no evidence of what happens to his speed and his power when, in round 9, when a 250-pound veteran of the game has been leaning on his neck, on his shoulders all night. His chin also hasn't been tested by a world-class puncher firing back. On the flip side of that, Hrgovic has major problems with southpaws. Zhang hit him with the straight left all night, and even Dempsey McKean gave him some awkward moments. Not world-ending, just a bit tricky. Plus, his footwork is a bit plodding, Against a guy with Itauma's lateral movement, Hrgovic is going to be a very stationary target, I think. It makes sense to look at how the betting markets are treating this, because they don't have biases, right? They aren't treating this like a 50-50 fight, and nor should they. Moses Itauma is an enormous 1-7 on to win. But here's the crazy part. The bookmakers have Itauma priced at 4-11 to win by stoppage. They obviously firmly believe that this 21-year-old phenomenon is going to knock out Hrgovic, a guy famous for having a titanium chin. So how does Itauma actually stop a guy like that? It probably won't be by one punch, Deontay Wilder style. It'll probably be by one of these three paths. Number one, the referee steps in. Itauma's hand speed is next level. If he traps Hrgovic on the ropes and unloads 4 or 5 unanswered shots, which I can see, the ref might just jump in to save the veteran from unnecessary punishment and get a nice stoppage for, a rising prospect. Number two, cuts. Hrgovic can get cut quite easily around the eyes, and Itauma's sharp, snapping jabs could split that scar tissue open, forcing the ringside doctor to stop the fight, maybe even early doors. Number three, the early blitz. Dave Allen, who recently fought Hrgovic, predicts that Itauma will stop him early. So if Moses unleashes that same ferocity that he used against Dillian Whyte to go and make a statement, then Hrgovic's aging reflexes might just fail him before he can even establish his own jab. The psychology of this fight going into it is pretty interesting because the two guys look at this sport, completely differently. During the press conference, Itauma was his usual cold and analytical self. He basically said, word for word, boxing for me is like a puzzle. I believe that with the right preparation, I don't think there is a puzzle that I can't solve. Hrgovic completely dismissed this. He said to the media that, he said, I don't believe in puzzles. There are two men inside the ring, two warriors, and the question is, who has more will, determination, courage, and desire to win? And potentially, that is the entire fight right there. Itauma wants to use science, geometry, speed, angles to take Hrgovic apart methodically. Hrgovic wants to drag the kid into deep, chaotic waters where geometry doesn't matter. It just comes down to pure grit, which I think is kind of nonsense, right? The ripple effect of this fight is potentially big because if Itauma gets a stoppage, he definitely becomes the new face of the heavyweight division, really, because Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury are going to be stepping aside soon. And the obvious next step for Itauma would be a massive unification fight against Daniel Dubois, probably at Wembley Stadium. But first, the winner of this fight will have to take on Frank Sanchez, who agreed to step aside to put this IBF belt on the line. And that contest, if it happens, and this is boxing and there's all sorts of shenanigans, if it happens, it's going to happen in December of this year, so not long to wait. So if Itauma wins, which I think he will, the Dubois fight will almost certainly happen. Or the Wardley fight, but I think Dubois will probably beat Wardley. But he has to take care of business with Sanchez, which, again, he's probably the favourite, but nothing's guaranteed in this sport. So it will happen, but it'll just take a bit of time. But if Hrgovic pulls off the 5-1 upset, he ruins everyone's promotional plans, okay? He finally gets his world title that he's tried to get many times, and he sets himself up for a massive, lucrative redemption rematch against Daniel Dubois. August 29th, this Saturday, O2 Arena in London, we find out if the Itauma hype is really real, or if this old veteran has still got something to prove. Who do you think's going to win? Let me know down below, and as always, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Cheers.